Captain Dadpool calling in from Pennsylvania. Captain Dadpool, what's up?
I know who you are.
What's going on, guys? Oh, do you?
Of course.
Yeah, Joe, I like your content on TikTok. Dan, I'm not familiar with you, but your jawline is very David Copperfield-esque. So I like that about you.
David Copperfield, that's a new one for me, but I guess I'll take it. I don't know what David Copperfield's up to these days, so I'll have to see.
No, sorry, David Hasselhoff. Sorry.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. I was
David
like, David Copperfield is not the first person that comes to mind when I think of like attractive people, but like I guess if that's the face, but yeah. Hasselhoff, that works. I'll take Hasselhoff.
I see the curls. I see that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about I recently had on my show Biddy Buddha, who is in the chats here, and we talked about progressive Christianity, and I heard y'all talking about the evolution of Christianity earlier. So I'm not sure where I fall on that topic. Like, is progressive Christianity is it a good thing? Because we did discuss about how progressive Christianity is really just a stepping stone to atheism. Right? How can you reconcile biblical doctrine with this progressive ideology? So what do you guys think about that?
Let me speak to this first, because like it was a stepping stone for me, right? I identified under the progressive Christian label before I became an atheist. And so like I see that pathway, right? And I think that's happened for a lot of people, and that's a lot of people's journeys. But Joe's still here, and Joe's been doing her thing for a while, and lots of people have been working under that banner. So like, yeah, like again, ultimately, do I wish other people came to the same conclusions that I did and just got rid of the whole thing? Yeah, like I think that's what I think is ideal. But at the same time, like, how do I do that? Is that even possible in the world that we live in? I don't know that it is. I'm not confident in that. What I am confident in is that there are Christians like Joe and others who are continuing to try to right the wrongs of the past, who are trying to fix things and move to a future that we can all live in a little bit better. And I like my personal stance on this, and I understand other atheists who feel differently, but like I am willing to work with people who may not completely theologically spiritually feel the exact same way about me. But, this concept of heaven on earth, as an atheist, I can interpret that into my own secular lens. I can make my own secular humanist definition of what that means for me, what I'm trying to look for. And, the activism that I tried to promote online and offline, I think is a reflection of that. So, yeah, like I have Christian friends in real life, and I will do that online as well. I might, that's still me doing that work. And I think if, a lot of us do have Christian friends that are in the atheist community, I'd like to make that happen if we can. Obviously it's hard. And that also, for me, that comes from a privileged perspective. Okay. That is a privileged perspective to say, because I have not been so hurt by Christianity that I can't talk about it anymore. That is the reality for some people. They cannot meet with people from the church. They cannot meet with other Christians. And probably this month is even hard for people who are fans of the show, because like this brings up things for people that they can't get over. And I completely recognize and understand that. And I wouldn't hold that against anybody. Okay. But I know that I can do it. And I know that it's something that I'm willing to try to do if I can. So, yeah. Do I wish Joe was an atheist? Do I wish other people were atheists? Sure. Yeah, I do. I mean, because I ultimately don't really believe in any kind of substantial truth of Christianity, but can I make something work? Can I try? Can I still organize and help the people that are in real need? Absolutely. So that I think that answers your question. I don't know. Joe, what are your thoughts?
It's kind of a double-edged sword. Like I prefer Christians to be progressive. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Speaking, I prefer that definitely.
Yeah,
but I don't see Christianity as inherently progressive. It's reactionary. You can't really pick and choose from the Bible.
But people pick and choose all the time, though. Like that's like the history of Christianity, though, isn't it?
There's certain exceptions where, like, you can be like, "Oh, this is meant to be taken metaphorically, and this is not meant to be. But there's certain things that you can't really beat around the bush.
I think more so than others.
That's
yes.
kind of my hang up.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I'm not a
Like
Christian.
you,
Yeah.
like I'm like you, Dan. When I was deconstructing, or before I deconstructed, I tried very hard to reconcile my beliefs with science. And at a certain point, it seemed like you have to deny science in order to be a Christian, in order to believe what the Bible teaches. Like it's almost a requirement. And if you can't do that, then you're out. So at a certain point, I was not able to reconcile those two things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Joe, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's fair. Everything that you're saying is fair. First, I don't identify as a progressive Christian. I think that's important. I actually fight with progressive Christians probably just as much as I do with atheist or conservative Christians. The difference is that progressive Christians tend to be more respectful. Conservative Christians just are assholes. Because really, that's the only way that they engage with me, in just really abusive ways. But this is the thing. It was the opposite for me. I actually became an atheist first. I got to this place where I was like, there is no way there is divinity. There is no way there is God. I can't see it. I can't, it's impossible. It became an irrational belief for me. And then the more I studied about my ancestors and the more I studied about different, especially Black theologians and women theologians historically too, that found healing and wholeness, like just found healing, because that's what I was looking after. I wasn't looking after a set of beliefs that worked. I wasn't looking after being, like having the right beliefs. I was looking after being healed, after healing. I was looking after wholeness, after being the most authentic version of myself. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be the most authentic version of myself. And the more that I read from all of these different theologians, the more that a lot of these narratives just pulled me. They continued to pull me back. And then the more I studied and read the Bible in Greek and Hebrew too, and then I ended up sitting down with a lot of rabbis and getting invited to a Passover Seder that was beautiful. And then I sat down with some Muslim people in Turkey and listening to them and the way that they practice, their beliefs. And to this day, I don't believe, which people have a lot of hard time with, I don't believe that God is a being. I cannot believe in a being that is a God. I think that belief is irrational. I don't think that there is somebody out there that is moving things around or that has more power than the rest of us. I think that is just human projection to be able to explain things that they couldn't explain. I think that that's all it is. That, however, doesn't mean that I don't believe in divinity. And divinity is, mystery, and divinity is unexplainable, and divinity is humanity. You and me and the most authentic version of ourselves is divinity, when we're not harming the other, when we're showing up in the world as the one that we were created to be, as the true self, and not the one that is indoctrinated into fitting into boxes or doing the things that they were asked to do. So that pursuit of finding the most authentic version of myself, that pursuit of shedding all of the trauma, not shedding, but healing from the trauma and not responding to my trauma anymore, but instead behaving according to what I wanted to do, really what I wanted, not what my trauma was telling me to do. Because see, I got married because I was told I had to be married. I was fitting into all the boxes that they told me I had to fit into. I did all the things. And the pursuit of becoming my most authentic self was a spiritual pursuit for me. And it included a lot of Christian narratives, not inside of the church, not inside of my teaching and indoctrination, not inside of even my training to become a pastor or any of that. It was on my own, just sitting down with this ancient book as alongside a whole bunch of other modern books on trauma and healing, and and recognizing that a lot of the narratives that I was seeing in the Bible were just people trying to explain complex trauma and people trying to explain how to exist in the world in the most healthy, wholesome way in community, but they didn't have the tools that we have today. We do. And I found in that a lot of beauty, and it continued to draw me. So the notion of the Christ to me is just this idea of being the most authentic version of yourself, of being the one that you were created to be. But I am not looking for the approval of a being. I am not looking for a thumbs up of a being. So for me, it was different. I went from atheism to actually these spiritual beliefs, and it was in a reclaiming of a spirituality too, from what was stolen from me. So yeah, that's why I still consider myself a Christian. Now, would 99.9% of Christians think that I'm not? Yeah, and I don't care.
I think that's something, the atheist community would probably respond to as well, which is like, I can sympathize or I can find beauty in the Christian narrative, for sure, under certain lights, right? Not in all lights, but yeah, I can construct a story there that I can identify with. But it's, for me to call myself a Christian after that, that's hard. I can't do that because it's hard for me to reconcile, first of all, everything I know about the history of Christianity and the actual system itself, but also just the objective history of the world and the way that we understand science and stuff, how the incompatibilities just stack up, and it's not something that I can fully reconcile with myself. And I think that's what would stop a lot of people from using that label for themselves, and figuring that out. So
that's fair. It's a shallow label anyways. It is. It means nothing. Yeah. It means nothing, really. I'm not learning anything about you if you tell me that you're a Christian. I can make a lot of assumptions, though, the same way that I can make a lot of assumptions if you tell me that you're an atheist. It's my choice to move past the assumptions and be curious enough to meet you, the human, not the label, the human.
Yeah. And I can't speak for other atheists, but like, when generally in my experience with atheists here, when we say that word, we are describing a philosophical position. We're not talking about a narrative. We're not talking about really a construct for ourselves. Although, I mean, all labels are constructs in some way. And the word atheist does mean different things too, depending on how you define it philosophically and stuff. Right. But like, there is a shallower pool of influence to draw from as an atheist label than there is for a Christian one, because a Christian label can mean a heck of a lot. And the pool for what atheist means, it can mean a lot, but not as much. Right. So I think that's a difference there that you see.
And I think that here I have to mention whiteness, because it's very different for white people to walk away from Christianity than it is for people of color. It's meant different things for us. The narratives of Christianity were so embedded in the liberation of slaves, in the walking away of enslaved Black people. They were reading the narratives of Exodus and thinking, this is about us. This is about us walking away from this oppression of whiteness. This is about us walking away from the construct of race and slavery. So we have to talk about that. And I would never dare ask a Black person that has this tradition of these narratives helped us walked away from this oppression. I would never even tell them, if you just study enough, you might become an atheist. Because you don't have the same trauma. It's a completely different trauma. And while I respect the trauma of Christianity, I see it and I experienced it myself. I also have to recognize that there is the side of the oppressive, there is this oppression. Yeah. And if Christianity that's
where my brain goes to.
Right. If there is these narratives of Christianity that pulled you into liberation as an oppressed people group, then removing that, taking that away from them is in itself violence.
Yeah. Because again, I do see the cynicism in the label of Christianity, which is like for every person that was using it for their own liberation, there was somebody that was using it for oppression, that was using these verses of the Bible to justify owning people.
Slavery.
And like, I think that's why it's why it's hard for me personally to reclaim that label, because I don't know if I can completely dismantle that. I don't know if I could, even if let's say that there was something in the Bible that convinced me, or I was convinced of some kind of spirituality, of a higher power. To call it a Christian one, I'd have to be very convinced of specific tenets of the Christian faith in order to use that label. Because, man, that's a label that has a lot of baggage. I don't know if I'd want to take that on. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I understand white people walking away from the label. Like, I understand that there was a slave Bible, like. The slave masters used the Bible and edited it so that people would submit to them. So I understand why people walk away from the label completely. And I also respect people of color refusing to. And it doesn't mean that one
Mm.
is more healthy than the other. It just means that our trauma is different. You know, our baggage is different. The thing that we're carrying with us is different, and that's fair.
Interesting. Great conversations here. Our caller has dropped while we were talking to each other, unfortunately. But caller, thanks for calling in and talking to us.